welcome to the Doctors Speak. You are literally listening to Dr. Katie Kamara and Dr. Margaret Rogers Van Coops this evening on the Soma Fusion Media Network. Tonight we will be talking about alternative therapies again. We're doing this show again because we wanted to get a little bit more practical with it. And we do know that in terms of alternative integrated medicine, we do know that it's now a thing more than ever has it ever been before. We go back to traditional Western medicine. There are lots of health alternatives, but when people think of alternative medicine or energy medicine, we think of the wellness world, and the wellness world is exactly what we're in. And this is what we teach at the Samaras Education Center. We teach this easy peasy solutions, and alternative medicines could come in the forms of acupuncture, chakra balancing, qigong, sound baths, all sorts of alternative medicines out there that focus on healing the human body. And we know this through shamans. We do this through traditional Chinese medicine. We do this through practitioners like Margaret and I, that we do this so that we can harmonize the human body to try and cure or provide balance to restore the human body, mind, and soul. And so with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Margaret, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the alternative medicines that she, and therapies, of course, that she does.
Well, actually, what I'd like to do is to explain a few things so they understand what we're doing. And then we're going to do some exercises so that by the time you've done them and joined in, you're going to be saying, I feel so different. People say to me, how can you do any healing over the internet? Well, the first thing is that we have to understand is hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting are our primary levels of survival. And those come from our spiritual consciousness, which is encoded before we ever come into embodiment with the soul structure coding. Now, while I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, I will tell you all that that coding is ancestral. So even if you don't know who your ancestors are, you are probably noticing that in some ways you have talents that the other members of your family don't have, which is a proof of the pudding that you've gotten it from somebody down the chain back in time who had the elements of what you're doing. Now, of course, if you're doing something in a modern idiom, and this ancestor was 200 years ago, it's certainly not going to be done in the same way. So, for example, you might have had an ancestor in Africa who liked to draw symbols in the ground to resonate with the vibrations of the earth at that time. And in doing that, attuned through the oneness to God or whatever they were thinking it was. Whereas today, we might be drawing something like Katie's been doing, suddenly doing psychic drawings, and maybe she'll have a few and hold them up in a while. But the bottom line is that whatever our talents are, they're not just there. We've set ourselves up to use them in this life. And we need people who come into our lives, like us, or a friend up the road, or even uncle or auntie or someone that you don't see very often could suddenly turn up in your life and say a few words or show you something. And without knowing why, you suddenly want to drop into it and start playing with the idea. And suddenly you find out you've got a talent that you didn't know. For example, I had a Japanese lady who was, her mother was dying and she was really trying to keep her alive. They had a tube down and everything. She'd had a stroke and she'd asked me to come and do the acupuncture, crystal acupuncture and so on. And so when I went, and on several occasions, I had to tell her every time that, the energy of mother is telling me I want to go, let me go. But she's saying, I can't. And she was pulling this little tube out all the time. And I'm telling her, don't do that. And so I showed her instead some exercises. And I'm going to dive in right now and say, look at my hands. You're already going to see they've got red round here because I'm highly developed as a healer. But what I would like everybody to do is to just look at your hands and think that you are sending energy from your brain to your hands. And if you're listening now and watching this, or if you watch it later on YouTube, we'd like you to say, yes, I had this experience, so we know how well it's getting over to you. So I just asked my spirit guides to not give me any energy right now because I'm trying to get my hands to not be hot. But as soon as I hold them up, you can see my hands are red. Okay, so what I want you to do, Katie, you can do this as well, okay, is put your hands opposite one another and start in your mind sending energy from this hand to this one and receiving it, and then from this hand to this one, receiving it. And you're going to find, as you do it, that your hands get warm. And so as they're getting warm, and you can bring them right close, don't touch though, you can bring them right close, okay? And you start to feel some warmth, or if you're already open, tingling. What are you feeling, Katie?
I already have it automatically, so I don't.
Well, yeah, we have to admit it, but you know, you've got to share as though you're someone who's done it in a while. So are you feeling energy?
Yeah, yes, I am. I remember the last time that we actually did it physically in person. And when we did it, we had energy transference between the two of us. That was last, what was it? Last October when we were at
Yeah, that was when I was teaching you about that. Well, we were two people together, so we were sharing auras and energy. And if you've got someone in the room, you want to do that, you can have them hold their hands up. But what I want you to see is, are your hands getting pink around here? And see this little white area? This is actually the hand chakra, okay? Now, Kate is not so used to doing contact healing. She's more doing intellectual stuff. So we'll forgive you for not being too pink. But, you know, physical people really do get to see they got pink hands, whereas people working more with their brains think more intellectually. So it doesn't show up so quickly until they get used to feeling, okay? So why am I doing this? Because when you put your hands opposite one another like that, and you're creating a force field, so let's all do this now. And see if you can find a resistance. Have a go, Katie. Go backwards and forwards and see as you bring it in, if it feels like you're coming up against something and you have to push that little bit more, okay? What you're actually doing is building up between your hands a ball. And if you're in the room with someone, you could toss it at them, okay? Now, if you had Auntie Sally and she's online like this and you do this, so everybody get ready because I'm going to build up my energy. And if you're listening, we want to say it here if you felt it, okay? So I'm just going to be very quiet for a minute. And I'm gonna, yeah, I can feel my fingertips are really buzzing. So I'm just making that a little bit more. Everybody get ready because I'm going to throw it at you in the screen. Okay, now don't worry if you didn't feel anything, because it might be that your barrier's up and you're not receptive. Did you feel anything?
I got it, and I've got it right here in my left hand.
Thank you, Katie. So if you were listening and you just tried that, or you did it the first time and it didn't work, practice this. And when you do it, you'll realize another thing that I'm now going to teach you. This little finger is your heart meridian. So if you're sad, you can do this same thing and you can put your hands on your heart, but we're not going there yet. I don't want you to do it yet. Now, so the little finger is the meridian for your heart. The next finger is your intellect for the logic of your everyday self, right? The middle finger is your poor me. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. Okay. And there will be a point here that I will tell you, and I'm very honest about me. I can bend these nails, they're soft. That's weak. So, no, for all my knowledge, I'm still dumping. Okay. Now, your index finger is the I accuse you, I'm the one, I'm the important one, that you're not so important. This is our judgment finger. Okay. And then when we come to the thumb, we're talking about ego. Now, all these are meridians. Your little finger connects with your little toe on the right side. Your little finger on your left hand connects with your left little toe. So by the time we go through all of this is your big toe, this is your next toe, next toe, next toe, little toe. So when you're doing this and you're bringing this ball of energy together and you feel you've got it, now you put it on your chest. So let's all try that. Let's have a energy source. We want to get that energy going. Okay. You trying it, or you just watching?
We're sharing at the show.
That's all right. We'll forgive you. All right. So I'm starting to feel a little power point in my hand chakras. That's the part, not the fingertips. That's the part I'm building up. And when I put it on my chest, just one hand above the other. I'll stand up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Just sit there for a minute while I'm talking and feel your energy going from your hand into your body. Want to try that, Katie? She looks mesmerized already. Yeah, because one of the things happens is when we concentrate on trying to help ourselves, we actually stop all that bullshit stuff going on in our brain box. Now, my chest, because I've still got my hands on it, is getting really hot. I can really feel heat going up to my head, and I can feel my toes tingling. Have you got your hands on your heart, Katie? Okay. And what are you feeling?
My left hand is actually on the bottom, so I've got mine like this right now.
It doesn't matter which way around now. It's a good point to bring up. Yeah.
Saying is that my left hand doesn't feel anything, but my right hand definitely does.
Now, that's a good point that you brought up, because some of us are more used to using the right side of our body than we are the left, especially if you're right-handed, this kind of thing. And we're used to reaching out with that hand and giving to people. So here you are, thank you, take it back. How often do you say, here you are, take it back with your hand? Your right hand supports your left hand. But if you're a lefty, you would be doing the other way around. So what is your brain doing? It's doing the opposite. Your left side is connecting with your right brain, and your right side is connecting to your left brain. So when you're putting both hands on the heart chakra, what you're actually doing is balancing your brain emotionally with your ideas. So if you're confused, fed up, worried, distressed, this is a very easy way to lift your spirits, clear your mind, open up your heart to your inner truth, meditate if you want to, and relax. And that is very simply something I learned when I was 6 years old. My mum was not well. She had bronchitis. And Spirit Guide said to me, go and put your hands on her chest. Well, I didn't know about acupuncture then, I have to admit it, and I didn't know about the meridians or anything like that. But I just put my hands on her, and you can see how my hands are still hot because I'm red and still open. And I'm going to stay open throughout this because I'm going to work with you. So what I want you to understand, by doing this very simple thing, you are clearing negative emotions. But now let's do the same thing. Hold them above, get your energy going, and we're going to put this on your solar plexus. Okay. Now your solar plexus is very sensitive when you're talking with someone. You're saying, what do I believe? What are they saying? Is that really true? Oh, I accept that. No, I don't accept that. I'm not sure. And your brain's running away and you're getting nervous. So you put your hands same way on your solar plexus. Now your solar plexus comes underneath your ribs down to your belly button. So you've got to kind of squish your hands together because your hands are bigger there. But that's the biggest chakra, yeah.
And for those who are a little skeptical about woo-woo stuff like pseudosciences and energy healing and for all of that, or the chakra system for that fact, we all know where the heart is, but the
solar plexus.
Solar plexus in translation of what you just said, Margaret, is basically our gut reaction. So when we're talking about our gut.
Yeah, well, in that sense, you're right. But in another sense, the gut tends to go down below that into the base chakra where unlearned lessons are. I know I'm stepping into a world right away and I'm asking people to trust me, but that's the best way because I want you to be like a child and you don't understand so that you're actually feeling yourself. Most of us spend too much time in our brain and we don't know how to feel the body unless it's suddenly pain, like a headache or a gut pain, like running to the bathroom. And all these things that we suffer with are caused by an imbalance in the glandular system. And so when you do this simple healing on your heart, or on your solar plexus, which is your waistline area above to up to the ribs, then what you're actually doing is calming the mind down to not feel the worries and to not think about the worries. Is there anyone watching us at the moment?
There is.
Any comments? I'd like to hear if anyone's making a comment.
Not yet, but
Okay. Don't be afraid. We want to have feedback. So if you've got a question, ask it and I'll answer it for you so that you understand exactly what's happening. Okay. Now, another thing that we can do if, say, for example, we have a headache, is to just do the same thing once you understand getting your energy going and put it on your brain box. Okay. Now, if you put it on your brain box, guess what? You're going to go into a much more serene state where you just feel you can just sit and just be and just listen. There are a lot of people that say to me that they can't sit still, right? How about you? You're sitting there all day, Katie, at the computer, on and off, on and off. I guess you've had plenty of practice of sitting still. But with two kiddies running around, that gets you up and about, right?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. So we get stressed. We're trying to fit everything in, don't we? We've got this and we've got that to do. And half the time we're not sure if we're doing it right? And we get stressed and we get worried about the ultimate events that it will lead to, all that kind of thing. And what we don't realize is that when we're worrying and being negative about something, we're creating new ideas that become validated by the fear, right? So have you had any things you've been afraid of lately? Something you could share? Anybody who's listening, think about your predicament, something that's going on.
But not for radio.
Okay, well, think about it when not for radio, but just generally, whatever it is. And we're going to rub your hands together this time. We're going to create friction like this. So do this, create as much friction as you want. And then when you have it, guess where you're going to put it? Any idea? She's lost for words. Okay, I've got a lot of energy. So this is where I'm going to put it.
I was going to say on my head.
No, on your throat. That's what happens. See, you want to take a deep breath because the eyes, the ears, the mouth is running all day long. and you're listening to your own thoughts that are also turning you upside down, inside out. My face is tingling now. You want to try? You've got your glasses on, so okay. So everybody who's here who wants to try it, rub your hands really hard to create a lot of friction. You need that friction because it's energy. Okay, and then when you feel it, dump it on the face. I do it almost immediately because I'm used to doing it. And I can actually stay like this if I wanted to for 10 minutes, but we can't do that here. But if you're watching, you can stop watching, listen, and keep your hands on for a little bit, and then give us feedback in the window if you have had an experience with your face. Okay. So, Katie, have you ever rubbed your hands together and put them on someone before?
Yes, I have.
Because, you know, for those who are listening, as you're experiencing it on your face, that friction will also work on the body anywhere. So if someone has a pain or an ache, then they're going to say to you, please help. Obviously, you've got to have permission. You can't just do it if they don't want it. And just say, this is normal human energy. This is not coming from the spirit world. This is coming from you generating energy yourself, right?
We have a question.
Mm.
Ted says, I have a question. So is it true that we are not our thoughts? Now, I will follow that up with a comment that he made in relation to this question, is that I spend too much time in my brain.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, we all spend too much time in our brain. You're not unusual in that point of view because we have a conscious, subconscious, and deep subconscious working all the time. The only part you're aware of is your conscious mind, but your body is aware of your subconscious. So, for example, if you visualize a new car because your old one's falling apart, okay, then as soon as you visualize it, you have motivated down into the body energy memories of, I want to get something I need and want. And immediately the body will take on either the negative or the positive relative to your fear, pain, anger, guilt, or joy and acceptance of change and transformation. We all have these problems all the time, every day of our life, but it's do I or don't I? Shall I or shan't I? Will I, won't I? You know, and so on. So if you're confused and you don't know if your choice is good or not, come back to rubbing your hands, come back to putting it on your face, and then just focus on that one idea. Do I buy a car? Period. Not or not, just do I buy a car? And that energy will go all the way down through your body and it will come to the heart and the throat chakra, and you'll find yourself saying yay or nay. It's that simple. There's no rationale between it. Does that answer his question, or does he want more information?
I'll wait for him to write something. Ted, if you're out there and you're still listening, please reply to what Margaret just said. If you have any other questions, be sure to answer them. Ask them.
Yeah, and just to say that he says is in his head all the time. That is his way of self-protection. Yeah.
A background with Ted. I have actually been working with him a little bit just to provide him some support as well, because Ted's father passed away not too long ago. So Ted, he's always been in my thoughts for a good while since we've been.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I remember correctly, he happened to see a broadcast up on Soma Fusion Media one evening, and he decided to, he was drawn to reach out to me. So regarding that, there are a lot of circumstances where people do drawn to people, and that goes straight into energy healing as well. And Ted just wrote up there, so relating to recovering from addiction, I will mention, yeah, so that's another thing that he just brought up. He goes, how do I rewire my subconscious to help me, help aid me in my recovery?
Well, okay, so I'm going to come back, to what we said with the face. When you rub your hands and you put them hot on your face, what you're actually doing, so everybody can understand and know, is you're actually putting energy not just into the physical body, but into what we call the etheric body. The etheric body is like a water bottle in a way, of hot water bottle. It's flat when you're born. The baby doesn't have any ideas, doesn't know anything beyond its spiritual self. Is it present in a body? And so as we grow up, we tap into our DNA, our ancestors, and we tap into our RNA. Now, when we do that, what we're actually doing is copycatting anybody and anything around us. So anyone who's really rationalizing all these thoughts and things is really coming back to what you learned in the first 5 years of your life. And we can't consciously, as adults, because we've gone so far, we can't go back and say, I remember the day my mother said, don't do such and such, or the time and the circumstances that I was going through at that time when I was told off or whatever it was. So this is lost right back here in the deep subconscious. So if you want to undo some of the history that has marked you, again, rub your hands together and put them on the back of your head. Okay, because then you're going to stimulate the deep subconscious to bring forward into your conscious mind a picture up here. And that picture is just like a photograph. You saw it, you say, oh, I forgot I looked like that and I couldn't remember that, but now I do, because the picture reminds you. In the same way, when you put your hands on the back of your head, it pushes energy to force you to release something, so that you are able to align yourself and get rid of many of those childhood, should we say, I'm trying to find a word here. It's very difficult to categorize all the emotions into one emotion, but the bottom line is to clear the debris, let's use that word, of things that are unnecessary that you took in as so serious at the time, which has been a foundation stone upon which you're building. So when I say rub your hands together, you're using your own physical energies, not the Holy Ghost, not the spirits, your physical energy. And when you put them on the back of your head, that physical energy goes into the physical brain. The physical brain does what it's supposed to do back there. It says, aha, time to bring something forward. And so when you do that, you've got to be prepared to sit for a while, muse on what comes out, even write it down. I did this years ago because I had a mother was a cripple and a father had post-traumatic stress disorder. So you can imagine what my upbringing was like. And I had so much garbage in me, including a very dominant, aggressive part of myself that would come up for self-preservation and protection. And what was it called? Anger. How many people are angry? Anybody out there angry? Say yes, put a Y in or something if you are, because anger is something that we can get rid of very easily. And I'm going to show you that next with your hands. But you could also, if you're supply left like me, I can get my feet up on the other leg because I've been doing it for years. Yoga teachers will be able to do it, people like that. How about you, Katie? Can you get your leg up on your lap? Okay, so we can't show you our feet, so I'm going to do it only with my hands. All right, we don't want smelly feet, do we? Not that we can smell one another, but hey, smell comes in. It's very important here. So, yeah.
You know what's really funny? As soon as you said that, I was already sitting there doing this.
Right. So you see, instinct kicks in, and I did it as well. So what I'm saying here is, if you get my reeds out of the way, if you put your fingers together right into the middle part, you know, where you wouldn't normally use it unless you're picking up something, and press against one another like this. See what I'm doing? I'm pressing in. I'm exaggerating by taking my fingers out, but you wouldn't. You're just pressing in like that. You can feel as you do it, you're using your biceps. Try it, Katie. Are you feeling? Hold it up here. That's it. Push in and feel those biceps and triceps working. Can you feel that? But something else is going on. You should notice something's going on in your solar plexus, and you're not trying to pull it in, but you will pull your solar plexus in. Can you feel that? It's automatic. Now, if you're with someone who's yelling and screaming at you, okay, all right, you don't have to put your hands up this high, but you can easily put them. I'll stand up again to show how I'm doing it. So I've still got my arms out, but I've got them on my solar plexus. You see that? And I'm pushing in. Okay. Now, you don't have to make a big deal of, well, that person's yelling away. You're doing that. And you're breathing. Push in, let go of the pushing, breathe in, and then pushing with your fingers. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And so what happens when you do this by pressing these movements, it stimulates the etheric body, which is all your history that you can't remember. Now, you don't want to analyze it. You don't want to bring it up and say, well, I wonder what I'm dumping and all that kind of thing, because then you're giving voice to it again and it can be sent back down and kept forever. So all you're doing is doing this exercise, pushing in, breathing, and saying, I release it. So let's do it again. Breathe in, push in, I release it. Now, as I said, you won't know, but if you do that every day, you'll be amazed in, say, a month's time. You'll be saying, I'm so different. Because it's like taking away all of the garbage you don't need, washing the garbage out, as it were, from the dustbin and having a brand new dustbin. So in the same way, you want to have your body release all that negativity that's worried you throughout your life that you can't even remember. You feeling any different?
No, because I'm
That's all right. No, I'm not looking for praise or allegations or anything. I'm just asking because people are watching. So if you do find you're having something, perhaps you'll mention it, because I don't want to put you on the spot all the time.
Ted did say, he said, okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of past trauma I don't remember, and this will definitely help me learn how to heal from it. I have had an anger issue and I am not proud of it. It has calmed me down over the years, but certain things will set me off. Now, I will mention, Ted, if you are still listening, please, you can call in at 929-436-2866. It might be a little easier to call in if you're not, if you're open to it. The meeting ID number is 522-657-2748. We can talk to you a little bit more on the live call if you would like that. Otherwise, just send us the questions that you need. I'm going to put up in the description or in the comments here what the number is. And so we can talk a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, we'd love call-ins because, you know, feedback and, you know, it inspires me too to share more. So we're working on the etheric body, which is, as I said, the conditioning of our life. And we, as adults, we can't remember every little itty bitty thing, but it is a mountain. It is a real mountain. If you imagine that your hands are making a mountain, so this is another thing. Vision, seeing whatever it is in the form of a thing. Now, what I used to do is do this, put my hands together and shoot this energy across the room at my drinking husband. Okay, it wasn't anyone. That was pretty bad in those days. And it didn't matter what I said, it wasn't going to help. So if I just did this, here, see, I've turned it around the other way so you can see. I got my fingers apart. And if I just do that and put my hands down by my heart chakra, my elbows tucked in, and look like I'm just going, you know, I'm just fiddling, I'm just looking around, but I'm actually using these 5 fingers and the 5 sides of each side, in other words, and I'm pointing it at someone. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm not going to zap you because it wouldn't be fair on you, but I'm going to ask people as I do this, attune to me if you're there and tell me if you're feeling lighter. Now, obviously, if I was doing this for half an hour, there would be a great big difference on a person who's sitting in the room with me. But just by my doing this, this is a very powerful way to send remote healing to someone you love who is sick and ill in even another country. They don't even have to know that you're doing it. Okay, they don't have to even see this, because when we put our fingers together like this, we automatically open up the crown chakra. Now, if you're a physical type and you're used to feeling, you'll feel your head lighter and you'll feel brighter, and you may even in time feel like you want to lie down. The person you're thinking of is knowing you're going to send it because you told them, so they're receptive to receiving it, okay? And they will say they feel better the next day. Now, what if the person doesn't know that you're doing this? Try and pick a time at night when you know they're asleep so you can send it, because when we're asleep, we automatically open up to the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, the oneness. And as you send this energy out to them in thought, your guardian angels are going to help you to send that miracle healing that you want for them. Okay? Have you ever done that for someone, Katie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so it'd be interesting to see if you practice on someone. I have a little thought as to who. But this is an amazing tool, and being a child medium, Spirit told me, and I had tiny hands in those days, Spirit guides told me to do this. You know, at first everything was like focused on my mum and dad because they were the closest people that I could trust and be with and so on. And I do point out here that I had an example where some man asked me if I wanted sweeties and was going to take me off, and Dad tore down after me and caught me and told me never talk to a stranger again and put the fear of God in me. So, you know, when Spirit was saying, go over here and heal someone before, I would do it without thinking. But now I'm cautious because I don't know if this is a nasty man or a nasty woman or not, you know, something like this. So we all have in us as children, having listened to what people are saying to us as this is fact, you know, and you have to grow up and believe us forever. And then you grow up and you find out, hey, I don't really believe that, but you still got this back here in the deep subconscious. So again, rubbing your hands together, okay, and getting friction going and putting your palms where that white area is here on your ears, and your fingers going up to your brain and just sitting there. Now you think when people are in trauma and they see it, they go, oh my God.
Yeah, or they do it on the front of their face.
Yeah, see, it's instinct. We know it's there. It's automatic. So instead of just going, oh my God, you know, stop and go, I'm hearing something. Why is it affecting me this way? Take those deep breaths. Let your hands put energy into your ears. From your ears, it goes into the middle part of your brain. It goes into the very center core of your brain, where you can then send energy all the way down to your tippy toes, and your hands start tingling as well. So what you've done in that moment, in a like shock or surprised way, is you've just stimulated the entire brain box of all memories of surprise or fear or anxiety. And you, by doing this, you're saying, that's history. I don't want to hear it anymore. I release it. You've got to say something to yourself. That is history. I don't need it anymore. I've learned my lesson, something like that. I release it and take that deep breath, hold it, and breathe it away. And you can even, in your mind, visualize that all going away. You want to try it? Well, you've got a headset on, you don't have a bit of a job. Yeah. Is there anyone out there trying this? We'd like to hear from you if there is.
Ted just said that he's about to have dinner, otherwise he'd love to call in.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's late for you. Yeah.
So if you happen to finish your dinner early, then call in. No problem.
Okay. So do we have anyone else on? Yeah, it's a bit early, isn't it?
Yeah, there are people listening, just not commenting. So yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to write something, because, I only are stimulated by what people are asking. So, otherwise I have to listen to spirit guides and say, okay, this is the next lesson we're going to look. Now, I'm going to focus on hypnosis now. How many people are there, if you want to put a yes or a no in, know what hypnosis is? That would be helpful to me, because I don't know if I'm talking about a beginner or someone who's, been doing it a long while. But just in case they're all beginners, I want to explain hypnosis. Hypnosis is a state when you go into the alpha consciousness. So, for example, if you're driving a car or you're daydreaming and you're not really focused on the cars in front, or you're not really focused on the people around you, and then suddenly something moves, it catches your eye, and suddenly you're 100% conscious of it again. Well, hypnosis is the daydreaming. It's the alpha state where you go into that on and off, probably 150, 30, depends how long you're up, 1,000 times a day, and you don't even know it. Because in order to find out what you know in the deep subconscious, you have to go into a hypnotic state for a blinking moment, literally blink, and pull up a memory of something similar, so that you can then rationalize in your conscious mind, oh, I remember such and such, and so I'm responding in such and such a way. Okay. And I know that many of us get into arguments, frustrations at work or at home or with the kids or whatever it is, and try as you can, on and off as you want to try and solve the issue. It doesn't get solved. And we see these layers and layers of time and effort and energies in trying to sort things out. And we just wade under all these memories, right? So what we want to do is to find out whether we're more emotional or more mental in terms of the way we process. So this is a very simple way to find out what type of person you are. So if you're watching, just put your hands out in front of you and shut your eyes. And in shutting your eyes, I am going to mentally place in your hand, in your right hand, a very heavy bowling ball. It's your grandfather's biggest one, or something you've seen somewhere on TV. Look at it in your hand. In the other hand is a feather. Now, I am focusing on that. I'm not looking, I'm just focusing on the heavy ball in my right hand and the feather in my left hand. And because I'm not even talking, thinking of you, I'm not paying attention to the knowing that I have this heavy baseball, sorry, I get the right thing, rock bowling ball in my hand. And already I'm going to bring my hands together so you can see, and I have to raise them up. My left hand is much higher than my right hand, right? Now, if I was with my eyes shut, I'd probably have an even bigger gap. I'd be one hand up here and one hand right down here. because I'm a very high physical. I'm 75% physical when you do the different kinds of tests in hypnosis. So my 25% brain box is often null and void by my conscious mind, because I immediately will say I'm dyslexic, and I'll box numbers and I forget words and things like that. But when I've got spirit in my mind, it's all there. I'm 100% smart. And so why I'm doing this is, when you visualize this heavy baseball, oh dear, I'll say the right word. You can tell I never bowl in my life. Bowling ball and a feather. Okay, you can do this at home on your own. Take your time. Now, if you find that your hands haven't moved, they're still sort of like this close by, you are intellectualizing, you're rationalizing. And this is a very important little exercise to do, because it's no good a physical who's feeling everything trying to rationalize what they feel to an intellectual who has no idea how to feel. Now I'm going to take a break here from exercise and just give an example. I had a Japanese student and I was demonstrating the difference, and I asked him to go over to the closed door and open it. So the first thing, and I'm going to act it out so you can all see me. Okay, will you please go and open the door?
Someone I know.
So then I'm not going to the door. He gets the door's open. And then he stands there. Oh, what the hell's he doing? And I said to him, okay, shut the door and come back to the seat. And I said, what were you looking at? He said, I was trying to figure out if you asked me to open the door because the air conditioner wasn't on, or if there was a fly in here. You know, so I didn't follow up then, because this is an open class with 40 students, okay, or more. So I asked them to sit down, and then I did a little bit more talking. Then I asked another girl who we'd established with this heavy light thing, that she was a physical, because her hands were wide apart. So I asked her to go and open the door later in the day. And as she knew that the guy had done it, but there wasn't any explanation. So she goes to the door, she opens it, and then she turns around and she says immediately something about whatever she thought, whatever the door was, and was it open wide enough? You know, so you see, she was able to correlate watching someone else, identify it in herself, do exactly what she was asked to do without question. But then when she got there, just like him, she had to make sense of it. But unlike him looking around and then saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, she immediately thought, I should open it wider, and I would want it left open. So when I said to her, you can close it now, she said, but I thought you wanted open for the width, you know, because she processed what the guide said before. So bringing that back, I want people to understand how we are always trying to understand what someone says from what we've seen and what we've heard and what we've done around us in our locale, and make sense of the actual addition of the repetition, right? And so when I had them all come back and sit down, and they'd done the heavy light and they'd done the opening door and they'd done some other exercises in between that, by the way, which are more stand up, sit down and things like that. So this is one that you can't see, but I'm going to say to the people at home, without thinking about it, just stand up, fiddle your feet around, like move on the spot, like walking on the spot, and then stop and look down at your feet and see if you've got feet that are turned in, which means you're internalizing, and so you're insecure. If you've got feet pointing side by side parallel, then you're neutral. that means you're not highly physical or you're not highly intellectual. You're just being, okay? I will say here that it's very rare to find people just being. If you have one foot turned out and one foot straight, that's more normal because we tend to put our weight on one foot to stand like a flamingo and then rest the other foot. So if you look at your feet and you see how you're standing, you'll get an idea of where your insecurities are. So if your foot's turning out, then you're saying, I'm open. I'm ready to receive. If your foot's turning in, then you're saying, I'm not ready to see, I'm not open. If your feet are straight ahead of you, you're saying, I'm on my own path and I'm not open to anyone else.
How long do you have to do this for?
It's immediate. You just stand up and triddle on your feet without thinking where you are, and stop, and then look down and see where your feet are.
We're doing it practical. I'm going to step to the side and see what happens with me so I can report back.
Okay, I'll let you do that. Everybody watch Katie's face. Okay. Actually, now we're looking at her little screen thing behind. That also can motivate you because you're seeing energy moving as she comes and goes from her picture. That affects the eyes. If anything catches your eyes while you are sitting quietly, it distracts you from what you were thinking. So another way, this is a very simple exercise, is if you're worried about an issue, do up, down, side, side, up, down, side, side, do 10 of them. You'll find yourself not thinking about that problem again. Okay, how did you do?
I got straight parallel.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because knowing you so well as I do, you do stay on your pathway, okay? And you don't let people walk all over you. So
Twice just to make sure.
okay, well, it was both times in the same position. And that's a very important thing that you said that, because yes, you want to double check yourself, so you can do it many times.
I will say that the first time I'm like, hey, hang on, no, I'm going to recheck that again, because if I, the first time is like a placebo effect. You want it to go. Now that you've told me a whole heap of options, now you want your feet to go into that situation. So you trick your mind into making sure that it plays out that way. The second time is basically vouching to see if there's any marginal error between the two.
Well, actually, when I'm teaching this in a proper class, with people in the room, I don't explain all that first. I actually just have them stand up and do that, and then tell them look down, and then tell them what they're looking at. But because we're not in a classroom, I had to do it the other way around. Yeah.
And I did that on purpose because I knew that there was always going to be a marginal error. And not only that, you already told me what the options were. So my brain was already attuned to what the options were. I'm like, I hope it's not like this.
Yeah. Now I'm going to give you, because I've only got you to talk to, I'm going to give you another little example of confusion and how you can, when you've got 101 ideas running through your mind, okay? So let's say you're thinking about Junior. You don't have to tell anybody anything. It's just you're thinking about Junior and something you know that you need to do. And you're thinking about the classes you're going to do next month. Okay. And what I want you to do is try and think of them both at the same time.
Now that's impossible.
Okay. Now think about Junior again. Now think about the class in the future. Now try and speed it up. Junior, future, Junior, future, Junior, future.
Blends.
It blends. What are you coming up with?
Overwhelming. I can't do this shit. Not working.
Yeah. See, this exercise shows you just how much your mind is confused by having more than two things going on. And when you think that every day we have 101 things going on, for example, you don't think twice about getting up out of your chair and going to the bathroom. But how many times in our life have we been in the bathroom for different reasons, from washing, bathing to, other things? When your brain is working at the back subliminally, it is sending through to you in the conscious mind an amalgamation of all those experiences you've ever had relative to right now, what is focused on by you consciously. So, and you don't even know you're doing it. So people who worry, people who get anxious, they're going over and over this and that, and I remember when, and I'll never, and I couldn't, and he won't, and she won't, and all this is going on, okay, so fast you don't even know you're doing it. And so while you're doing something like me boiling an egg and boiling a pan to bits, because I'm trying to do too much at once. That's a physicality. You can see it. That happened to me today, folks. But our brain is doing that all the time. And so we get confused by the many, many thoughts that are running from the back to the front like this all the time. So here is where you do that hand thing again, and you put your hand at the back of the nape of the neck where it starts to go up, and you put your hand on the front and you just breathe. Now, we're not stressed particularly right now, but it does help you get rid of the stress. And if you keep saying to yourself while you're doing this, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm 21 times, your brain accepts it. 21 times is the key. Now I've got to explain that. When we're children, we're taught, count to 5, you're a big girl. Count to 10, you're even bigger. Count to 20, wow, you've done it, you're marvelous. End of subject. Okay, you can do 21, 31, 41, 51. You can count to 100. Oh, by then, who cares? Your brain is still counting. Your brain is saying, this is the 425th time I've told you that you screwed up on me. So when you're in that kind of mood, rub your hands, and it doesn't matter if you do left or right, it's up to you. Your instinct will know which way. And just hold them there, breathe. And of course, you don't want to do it in front of the person you're angry with. So go in the bathroom or somewhere and just take that time out to stop counting how many times you've had to do it, because your conscious mind just says, this is 101 time. But really, it could be the 1,001 time or the 1,000,001 time, but you don't need to know that. What you need to know is that you're saying to your brain box, this is not important.
I was just gonna say, I do the same method with Junior, actually, because Junior is someone that can easily be agitated. Junior, and so
Is he there? Yeah.
about to bring him up. Come here. Come here. Oh, it's school break and they don't want to be a part of it. But no, I was going to show you actually what I do, so that you can see it. Let me see if I can get him again.
Can you come and say hi to me? Maybe that'll work.
I need Junior, not you.
Well, one of them might work. It's okay if they want to do it. We don't want to force anybody.
Well, Manny is on a wall. It's not that Manny is unfamiliar. It's that Junior knows the process, so he understands it. But what I do with him, and I think I mentioned it on a previous show of ours, that what I do. So you said back and front, whereas I do side to side, but I make connection because that is a child rather than, rather than being stepping away from another angry person and whatnot. I do it a little bit differently, and I actually connect my forehead with his forehead, and we do the same thing, and we breathe. So rather than him do the actions of putting his hands on the sides of his head, I do the action itself.
Mm.
I use my energy and transfer it over to him, and all he does is breathe.
Mm. And that, of course, he's young, he's only 5, but that is a good way to do it. That's a mummy thing, and it's nurturing that mummy's hands are there. But given time, I advise you to help him do that, to teach him to do that, because that will, you know, the brain is like a ball. So you're doing the ears, you're doing the back and front of the brain to harmonize and realign it. And I was talking about the nose smelling. So these sinuses that we're talking about, and I'm now going to talk, change the subject unless you've got any more questions about what I talked about so far. The next thing that I'm sure everybody's heard about is acupressure. And acupressure are basically the acupuncture points. Now, if you were to study acupressure, you know, different people have different points that they like to use. But again, I'm going to stay with the hands because I want people to understand the head, hands, and feet are the be-all and end-all of how you express yourself. The body fits in with where you put your hands. Your body fits in with where you put your feet when you walk or sit or stand. Your face makes all the expressions of what you're listening to and doing. So we're working with all of this, and the body is being programmed by everything you think, feel, touch, taste, smell, and so on. So the next thing is acupressure, and I'm going to come close to the camera, and here's my nail. So if I squeeze on the side of the nail, and you can try this, Katie, that releases the jawline. And remember, this is the IRQ's finger. So I don't have much tension in my jaw because I work on it all the time. But if you have a heavy jawline in here, you're going to get, and if you're grinding your teeth, one of these people, that kind of people, just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze 3 times, and then breathe 3 times. Then go to the next finger, squeeze, 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 breathe. I do this when I'm watching TV. Squeeze, because I've been working on my throat chakra, and this is what this does. It works on your, you know, if you think of your nail as this is the face shape, okay, and you're squeezing either side onto the nail, you're squeezing here in your jaw. And that allows you to release. And when you're watching TV and you've got emotional traumas, you know, say a mini series or something that generates with you and holds your interest, this is the time to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Okay. Now you don't have to have your hands up here. I'm just doing this so people can see. You can have your hands on your lap, and you do each finger on both hands. Now, if you're having a person that can't do it themselves, you can do the same on the toes. You just go to the either side of the nail and do that. Okay. Now, what will you feel? You feel like letting air out of the balloon. You know, if you're stressed and tense and full of anxiety, as you do this, it's like, you just, you sink into yourself. See what I'm saying? Now, what if you've got rheumatoid arthritis? They're painful, okay? Then don't press so hard, but you need to go along. I'm doing it this way up because so you can see what I'm doing. I'm squishing between my thumb. Don't go this way. I'm going up so you can see me coming towards you, okay? Like that. And you can do from the back of the finger, like down here where I know where I'm more tender, I can feel that. That is like a little tiny bruisey sort of feeling. And then as I go up, I'm working that up by squeezing. It's like squeezing a toothpaste a tube, and you're squeezing out the stress. It's going to come out on that meridian point. And guess what it looks like? A beam of light. You can't see it though, but that's what it is. It's a beam of light. So if you do that on every finger or every toe all the way through, thumb as well, of course, on both hands, you're giving yourself a good release of stress, tension, fear, pain, anger, guilt, and loss. You're releasing it. Now, did you try that underneath the table or not?
Of course I did. I was doing it. I'm like, hang on, which finger am I doing? Oh no, it's all of them.
Yeah.
I do that too, but a lot of the times when I'm doing things like this, I'm back into this whole, I'm like this all the time. That's because I do hold a lot in.
Well, when we do this, what we're actually saying is, I'm closed down. I don't want anybody getting in my aura right now. And we tend, we were taught as children, sit at table, link your fingers, don't breathe, don't cough, don't do anything. Just sit there and be, what was it they used to say? Children should be seen and not heard when I was a kid. And we were actually told to do this or this. Okay, now if we do this is better, because then we've got the hand chakras on top of one another. And we tend to do that when we're happy. Yay! Okay, so if you put your hands together and you're feeling miserable and you think of energy coming from God, the Holy Spirit coming, guardian angels, whatever it is you think, that's your higher consciousness coming down into where your hands join, then you've got a figure 8 in a way. And if you're able to do yoga and put your feet together, palms, feet, I'll get it in a minute, the bottom of your feet together as well. So you've got your hands together, then you're going to be creating a figure 8 through the solar plexus. The higher self and the lower self can get together and unify and make your whole persona come out feeling different, feeling more independent and freer of all the conditioning that parents, grandparents, or teachers, whoever, have given you that you took so seriously as a child, but don't need now, because either it's just, I know it, I'm happy, I'm content with it, I can, this is something I love to do, then you don't have stress and tension unless you're pushing yourself to hurry up with it. And some people do that, and the whole point of doing the things that we love to do is to enjoy it, not squeeze it in between 900 other things. And so if you're wanting to really have time out and be in your own space, that's a good idea, is to do the acupressure and work on the figure 8 in your consciousness, the higher and lower self meeting in the solar plexus, right? One of the shows, I did show the spleen chakra running through the meridian. Do you remember that?
I've seen so many shows of yours, it's not funny.
No, I mean with you and me. I stood up and did it on one of our shows. I can't remember which one it was, but I was showing, I'll do it again, maybe it'll remind you. So I'm standing up, and back here is the back of the spleen chakra, and here on the front. And notice I'm doing an A shape so that the hand fits very comfortably on the back, and then sits on the heel of the hand, sits on the hip bone. And this is a way, and I'm going to do it, you just rock like you're rocking a baby. And you can do this for as long as you feel you want to, and shut your eyes, and this will balance your energies. That's why mothers rock babies. They've got to balance the chakras and keep the baby happy, okay? And so this is a very practical, simple thing. And I tell you, when I was in Japan the early days teaching, there were so many old-fashioned ways still functioning from their traditions. and their mothers didn't know about rocking because the grandmother always took the baby away, and they reared the baby because the family had to go to work, and so on. It was a very common thing. And so I had a lot of students who were really mentally, emotionally messed up by their rules and regulation. And the minute we did this, where I had them, and you couldn't stand and rock in a diagonal, which is even better, and I'll explain that in a minute, where you kind of rock towards the back and towards the foot, okay? And that is in keeping with where the spleen chakra is. It's in a diagonal running through your middle. And so when you rock like that, you're bringing the 5 bodies that make up your aura into harmony. And that helps the chakras, which are vortices of energy, where your brain is controlling these round circles that are going round and round all the way down. There are 7 of them. And each one from the base coming up to the crown, down in the base, there's only 3 in the main core one. And then as you come up, they double, double, double. So by the time you get up here, there's 144, where there's actually 7 cones that come all the way down, but there are other tiny cones in the brain that spin rather like it's pinball, and you kick that ball and it goes up and it bumps into things and it gives you a number. Well, it's kind of what's happening with the subconscious. It's finding what will be helpful to you to be better and be improved, which is like playing the pinball game. You want to get a high number, right? So what do you think about that technique?
It's interesting, but I was just gonna, while you were talking that, I was just thinking about it. The whole rocking and balancing. Do you know that I got to see? I'm a natural at doing that. So I will rock. I will rock and rock and rock until it doesn't become, I feel comfortable. When does it become too much?
Well, that's a good question. The answer to that is simply instinct kicks in and you just feel, I don't want to do it anymore.
Okay. So when I was doing that, obviously I had a baby too, but when I was doing that, I was also doing it without a baby. And I was constantly doing it, and people thought that I was kind of a little weird. Now, very subtle movements like that might be associated with autism, which in my case, it's definitely not. But I was, or sailor's legs, like as if you've been at sea for many, many, many months. But I was recently, and I was finding comfort in it.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you do it with just babies. That's automatic. Mothers know. I'm talking about you're grown up or you're a late teenager. This is when you need to do the rocking, because late teenagers, so much stuff in their head. You've got to know all this stuff in school, and you've got to prepare for wherever you're going, uni or shop work or whatever it is in some way. And you got to get out there, and you got to take all this information, all these people have told you, and you go out there with, the fear of everything to try and survive. And if you're having a fear moment, do this rocking.
And the other thing is too, is that we've been taught to, when we go to school, it's kind of like ingrained in us. We go to school, we have to sit straight. We have to sit, we're rigid. We're rigid, not just in some ways of thinking, but also rigid in the body movements that we have. And there are a lot of people out there that just they don't know how to use their, using their hands, from using the words of expression, using body language in order to convey a message. By encouraging that body movement, we can also find balance and harmony with the things that we do, because we're able to express what we need to express, almost like dumping in a way, because we're able to physically and emotionally get rid of what we need to do or convey whatever we need to convey. And by rocking and using both of those techniques at the same time, it allows you the equilibrium that is needed to balance yourself.
Plus, in the physical of doing, it is a deviation from what problem solving, as it were, and that gives the brain a chance to it's like rebooting in a computer. You know, when you stop and you do something like that, it changes everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
I think it really odd when I see people that like they stand tall, but they're stiff as a board.
mhm. Yeah, there are a lot of people around like that, I have to admit it. And, you know, so here's something else I want, you know, when you're talking to someone and they have no idea what you're talking about, like with metaphysical stuff. Obviously, I've walked the road, a lonely road, and had to break the ice with many people who had no idea what being psychic was, you know. So by the time I'm 21 and public speaking, you know, the question I always got is, does this really work? And my response to them was always yes, but after a while I started to realize I had to say something different. And so I said, it really works when you try it. That's a challenge, because the brain says it really works and I'm supposed to try it. And my doubting Thomas doesn't know, but the brain is kicking and saying, I want to learn it. So they try it. And of course, then when they try it, they find out they do feel better afterwards, you know. So I was talking about acupressure, but let's talk about the jaw now. You know, I was saying we get a lot, people have a lot of tension because I can't do that, you know, and for different reasons, whatever it is. I have one patient who was so badly grinding her teeth now that she was in pain from the nerve endings. That's how badly her teeth are. Unfortunately, she's passed now because she had cancer, but I did a lot of work with her until she went off on her own. You know, people get to that point where they just want to do their own thing and they don't listen anymore. You have to let them go. But in the early time when she was coming to me for the jawline stuff, I taught her the pressure points. So we could do those at the same time. If you go into the ear at the side here, you're going to find a little indentation. Can you find that with your headset on? There's a little indentation. That is where the jaw comes up and fits over the bracket, as it were. Okay. Now it's not unusual when you're whole. I'm in place right now because I had a chiropractic treatment this week. But yeah, I will go out if I'm not balanced and I'm worrying about too many things to do at once. This side will click over. Okay. And so he's got a little machine that kicks it back. But when you open like this, you want to look and see if you're to find out if you're out of alignment. There's 2 points, but I'm doing the lower one. Okay. You open, because this is where you're opening the jaw. So you press in and open. Mine is going over to the left a bit. So if you see that you're not opening right, then you correct it by keep that pressure right on here. And then see, I'm doing this deliberately. Now it's out. Now, if I go the opposite way, it went back in, just click back in. So have a wiggle, see what you're doing, open your mouth and close. And did it click? Then you can click. Are you pressing hard? Yeah. Okay, so do you feel you're in alignment? So when you go,
I'm not out of alignment.
yeah. Okay, the reason mine goes out is because these are not my own. And I don't mind admitting it when you get to my age. The bottom line is, if you're a grinding teeth person, you do the top one and then go and do the other one and hold the pressure there and open and close the mouth or talk like I'm doing. And if it's out in some way when you're talking, it will click back into position. Now, if you're not having problems there and it's coming down this jawline, see what I'm doing? I'm just moving along as I go. I'm not taking my fingers off my face. I'm moving, sliding, moving, sliding, moving, sliding, moving, and so on. Now, if it helps, you can do this in front of a mirror, and of course I'm talking, but you want to be breathing. Breath is very important. Breath is the force of life. Without oxygen, we wouldn't be here, would we? We'll be doing this cold class. So you must remember to breathe. Where from? Not here. There's so many people I say breathe and they're going, I'm exaggerating, of course, but to show it. But no, we have to have the diaphragm. And then you'd be amazed how many people don't know how to breathe from the diaphragm. They're forcing it to move by shoving their stomach out. That doesn't need to be done. If you breathe naturally, the diaphragm goes up and pushes the air out automatically just by going.
I didn't have to worry too much about that because back in the day, I used to sing a lot. So breathing from the diaphragm is quite easily.
Yeah, but were you breathing from the diaphragm before you were taught to sing?
Yes.
Okay, because a lot aren't. I know when I was studying singing as well, there were people coming in and they're singing from here, and breathing from here. And the first thing the teacher, who was a marvelous teacher, would do is stop them and say, sing the scale or something. And then he would point out where they were breathing from. And you listening to these students who were singing like, the hills are alive, as opposed to the hills are alive, this amazing other voice would come out. And that brings me to another therapy. So thank you for bringing it up.
Well,
singing in the shower.
Good therapy. What about dancing? I was going to say.
Well, we get to dancing in a minute. I've got on my list, but singing in the shower is not singing your favorite song. It's singing what you think. I hate my mother. I don't know what I'm doing. I can sing, as you can tell, but what if I was the person who says, I can't sing? You can. Talk it. I hate my mother. I hate my mother. That's all I said. I hate my mother. It's the same thing. It's singing. Okay. So, but out loud. And nobody's in the shower with you, so you can go all you want and get rid of that garbage that's running in your brain. So I was talking about one of the members of my family recently, and so when I went in the shower, I sang and did my thing accordingly. Okay. And that releases emotion. Singing is the soul. Okay, I'm going to go into X Factor and America's Got Talent. These people come on, and let's take, what was her name? Something Boyle. Can you remember her? She was a fat lady in her 50s, and she opened up her mouth and sang.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember her first name, but it is Boyle.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody, they panned the audience, and everybody had already up here thought fat, unattractive woman, middle-aged, she's not going to sing. And she opened her mouth and everybody went, oh, literally. Okay. Well, that's what we have to do to ourselves. When we're saying, I can't sing, you've got to stop that self-talk and just get in that shower and just let rip. Nobody's going to know if you're flat or sharp. Nobody's going to care whether it's a song or whether you're making up the word as you go. But what you are doing is you're breathing more oxygen because you're singing louder, and you're breathing out the things that's on your mind that's worrying you in some way. So by the time you've towel dried and everything else, it's like, okay, I've got a different point of view on it.
Just make sure that when you do that, you're not over your mother's house. And if you women out there want to say that, and I hate my husband, no, you don't want to be doing that while he's home.
True. I thought they'd have enough sense to remember that.
Thank you, Scott. Scott has joined us. Scott, it's Susan Boyle.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, Susan. Yeah, that's it. And actually, even now she's retired because she's always been nervous. Here she's done all this singing, gone on a tour, and she's probably made quite a bit of money. And now she's saying, I don't want to do it anymore. She had her moment, her dream. The thing was, she sang, I dreamed a dream of days gone by when hope was high and life was whatever it is. I can't remember the words right now. I've sung that on stage too. And I sang it at a time when I was dreaming of a future and so on. So you pick the song that means something to you. So if you can't sing your own words because you're confused by you and you're too intellectual, your balls are like this instead of like this, okay, then sing a song that is one you like, that relates to the mood you're in at this time of doing it, so that you can sing it out, get rid of it. I can tell you, growing up, we had a nice big bath. I could lay all the way down in it, old style from England. And I would go in there and, sing myself into happiness and joy from sad and misery frequently, because my household was constant yelling, screaming, hitting, something going on. And I'm not saying my parents were bad parents. They were disciplined. They were typical of the old states, the old times, the old ways. And when I brought my children up, trying to bring them out in the same ways and the same traditions, I got four rebels. And it wasn't easy. And when you add to the mix a dad in cases that, and there are many people across the world like this, where dad is not taking part of the responsibility or overdoing it, whatever it is in some way, there's a defense mode, there's an argument mode, and there's a pretend mode. I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing, I'm right. And maybe 2 hours later, it's like, what the hell did I say? I didn't mean that, I didn't mean, so we got all these different things happening with COVID and people at home. And here I'm going to point out acting out a drama. Only you're on your own in the mirror.
Before we go over to that, Scott just mentioned, if tones come out, not words, is that enough? Yeah, I will mention too. Then there's those moments where we sing a tune, we make up a tune, or we sing Christmas carols out aloud at random times of the year, like fa la 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 or something like that. Because we and it's not even related to Christmas. That's what I'm saying. We remember these melodies. We remember just making up tone come out. That's why we walk down the street and we whistle, or we just hum to ourselves, because that's just another form of it.
Yeah, you're right. But I also want to say, though, going back on what you did say about words, it's the words that our conscious mind assimilates to try and figure out from back there somewhere what it actually means. So if you're just la 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 la, which is what you were talking about, then what am I doing? I'm tuning my aura. So it's like I'm not getting at the negativity. I'm tuning up my tone. I'm building out my aura. Now, if you've got a whole bunch of negativity in your words, in your speech about everything's wrong and nobody loves me and nobody cares and I've done this and I worked my slave butt off and that's what you have to sing out, because your brain can't get rid of all those thoughts in words unless you're singing it out. See what I'm saying? So if you're miserable and you feel insecure in yourself to not even sing what you're feeling, because there are people like that, they just insist they cannot sing, they insist they cannot speak out because somehow they're going to be heard, caught, trapped, something, it's deep fears in a lot of people. Then you have to take time out. And here is the next therapy that I want to talk about, which is writing. If you cannot sing it, write it. Now, we had in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I think it was all about writing letters, what you feel. I actually wrote my letter to my dad in the 60s. I was going off to study my nursing. And I did not have the courage to tell him to his face that I thought he was a bigot. So I wrote this letter, and my mum gave it to him after I'd left and gone on my way to nursing. And she said he read it and he just broke down and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. What I learned from that is I broke his heart, and I didn't do anything for me, but still keep the rage, because all the times that I had been hit or whatever, yelled at and so on, it was still there. So what I actually did, and this is what I'm going to tell people to do next. So this is a writing experiment to do. You make a list of all the words, and I'll give examples, not reading mine, but just memory. I put aggressive, no, wait a minute, I'm going to get the right word, aggressive treatment. And then underneath that, I put, should we say, stubborn, fixed, lost, alone, miserable. You know, I had a whole long list of whatever words I put down. And then I had 2 more headings. That was me. Then I had a heading for, I'm just putting up there, next to it, which was mum and dad. So when I went down my list, and so let's say aggression, and I go over and if I thought my dad was aggressive, then I put the word aggression under him. And then if I thought my mother was aggressive, I would put it under her. But in her case, she wasn't aggressive. She was a diplomat. So I put diplomat. You know, whatever it was that I'm going down my list, I try to fit it in with my parents. And that way, I really started to understand just how much I copied their traits. Then I did it in negative and I did it in positive. You don't want sentences, because sentences are lying sheets. My mum hit me because she did this and this. No, you just want to say my mother was violent. So you put violent, you know, if she was violent. Okay. And on your word, you might have fear. But by the time you got over to her list, that fear is turning in. She's going to hit me again. So you put violent, aggressive, or something. You see what I mean? You make these lists. And then when you've done that, you turn it over and you bring it back to you. How much of this have I copied? Now, what I did is I put rings around the bits that I copied. And I started to see my personality. When you see your personality, you either like yourself or you don't. And I got to admit, I went, oh no, I'm a big head. I don't like that. And I'm not this. And I don't want to be like my mom. And I don't want, this is my dad. I spent about 10 years getting rid of all that. But it started way back in these years where I would make these lists. And I'm saying to people, what you see on paper helps you. Have you ever done anything like that in your classes when you were studying psychology? Because it is a psychology thing.
Yeah, I have.
And did it help you?
I still do it to this very day.
Oh, so it does help, see? You have to say yes. Okay, so anybody listening, you know, don't be afraid to sit down and explore how each of the parents have been, and then see what traits you've copied from them. Because I can tell you that most children don't think they're like their parents. Oh, I'm different. I'm never going to be like my mom. I'm going to be so different.
You may not, and not only that, too, I want to go into, if you think for 1 second that we aren't our parents' traits, we are very much our parents' traits. We take, there's two sides to the coin. Our DNA is picked up through both parents, unfortunately. Now, some of those traits, I will say that is added to our personality that come from our parents, learned traits. So we've got to know the difference between what is actually picked up because of the personalities that we've been given through DNA and the personalities that we've been given through learned behaviors.
Yeah, well, you know, if you go in that direction, then what we're looking at is 101 trillion ways of how we perform in the public eye. And so like my singing teacher I mentioned earlier that had this guy, I've told you a story I think before, but he sang what was it, On the Street Where You Live. I'm going to try and do it. I've often lived on the street. It was like, literally, there was no tune, and with breathing and with doing these things. Now, in between those classes, he came to me for hypnosis. And what I did was I put him into a hypnotic trance, had him open his eyes and had him breathe and had him think as though he was whistling his note across the road. Okay. And surprise, surprise, not really for me, but he was able to, and you're trying to reach across the road, you see. So in the hypnotic state, I then said to him, when you go back to the class and as you enter the door, you will feel this, whatever note it was. And so I went to the class full of expectation, and he got up on the stage because it's his turn to re-present it again. And I would say that he sang probably half of it in tune, whereas the first time there was nothing in tune. So he gave him some more directions, and then he came to me and he said that he felt that I'd helped him the first time, so he wanted some more hypnosis. So we did another one where I had him in his mind standing on the stage in the hypnosis, and every note was, I can't remember the words, obviously what I did for him because it was, the recording was made for him, that he would be standing on the stage in the end of semester show and he would be singing in tune. And the way I made it, he could listen to it every night before he's falling asleep. And he did sing it in tune at the end of the semester. And he came up to me and he said, I'm so glad that I could do that. And I said, well, I'll see you next semester. And he said, oh, I'm moving. I said, where to? It was like another state miles away. And I thought about that and I thought, well, so why did he come? But you know what he was in heart? A salesman. But he was always saying, I can't sell. Mm-hmm. Well, he gave me an email later that as a result of that class and the hypnosis and the singing, he found himself able to pitch and was making a good living where he was with pitching the sales that he was selling. So I want people to understand that you are the face, you are the mouth, you are the ears, you are the head, you are the person who's owning your body. So if you take care of your body, you'll be able to do anything. Yeah. If you give it up to someone else, you can't do anything.
Yeah, if you keep telling yourself that you are your mother's or your father's traits, then you literally turn into your mother and your father. And and then you project that automatically. It almost is projected onto your children. So we have to be very, very mindful about how we think and about how we look after ourselves, so that we don't fall into those patterns that we become our mother and our father to our children as well.
And sometimes, and I know in my case, absolute, I copied my parents, different generation from your generation, because that's what we were told to do. And so I admit that with my kids, I was always yelling, screaming at them because they were so boisterous and so disobedient, and I didn't have a husband home to help me. So, these things drained me, they tired me, they exhausted me. And in spite of that, I would still say, sit down, you're going to have a lecture. But, that's what my dad did. And I hated sitting down and having a lecture. And today I can tell you, even though my kids are all grown men, married and children of their own, that they will still tell me that they hated me doing that. But that's all I knew at that age. And so I got to make an excuse for mums and dads right now and say, you're doing what your parents trained you to do with your kids, but update yourself, modernize it. Find a better way. For example, we can't slap our kids anymore, otherwise the kid could have us locked up.
I will say something on that too, because I had one day where I literally was told, how do you do that? And in terms of my parenting and that, and it's like, well, because I already know my children, and because I've come from an abusive background, I know not to replicate that same discipline, if that, if call it what you will. And so when this was observed from another person, and their point of view, they kind of said to me and said, how do you do that? I don't know how you do that. Because I've got dynamics in my children that I have to keep under control. I've got to take it as a different approach. And so when I have to deal with certain situations, I can't yell, I can't scream, I can't do what naturally comes to every parent who gets frustrated with a child that is also angry. So fighting fire with fire is in my household. I can't do that, and so it's not even a priority. So therefore, I have to take a step back. So when somebody came to me and said, how do you do that? How do you keep cool, calm, and collected and have that patience that your child will then come almost like come around, so to speak?
I'm sorry, I'm getting you're talking and I'm pressing my button because it's exactly what I'm saying too.
And then on top of that, how do I keep myself cool, calm, and without having to lash out because I'm angry, because they're angry, and it all becomes a
so that's why I was going for the next one. I know I learned it the hard way because I'm the first to admit it to my kids and everyone else. I was a screaming, nagging bitch, because when you've got 4 kids, a drunk husband, and all those kind of scenarios, you can imagine the worst of it, and I'm like, dinner's ready, and then they all come running in with candy when I've told him we're going to dish up dinner. It's my boy, he's buying the, he's never home. When he is, he's treating them, and they of course they don't want dinner. What are you going to do? Scream, nag, shout, yell? I didn't know what to do in those days, so I tried them all, and all it ended up was the kids, if I put them on their bed, say punishment, you've got to read a book or do something, within 5 minutes they're out of the room playing with the other 2 or 3, and you're supposed to be on your bed. Get on your bed. Why? I don't want to get on my bed. They're not on their bed. Well, they weren't naughty. Get on your bed. No, I'm not. Whack, because that's what I was taught. And of course, having boys, my whack on their butt or leg ended up often on their shoulder or something, because they were damn good at running away. So, for mothers that are, bringing up babies, children, and you have to discipline, it's a different generation. The children are very psychic, they're very empathetic, they know what you're feeling, even if they can't spell it out in words. They'll come up to you, my younger one, he would come up to me when he was 2 and tap me and say things just like I did when I was 2. He'll come up and tap me and tell me, Mom, I know what the spirit world's like, and I'm talking to an adult, and I'd say, well, what? Stop. And I'd say, well, what do you see? And he would describe things that were in the spirit world that I hadn't told him, and they were accurate. So I knew, as all my kids were psychic in different ways because they've got a psychic mum, but they're not all using it in the same way as I use it, but they use it, and I'm grateful for that. But the whole influence here of how it is today is important to do these kind of exercises that I'm showing you in front of your children, like tapping your face. They'll copy you. That it'll grow up that this is something I can do. So if my teeth are hurting and they're coming in, like, new second set, okay, and same with the infant baby, just do lightly, of course, because they're baby, but press these points like this around here and go up to the eyes because they're looking, okay, and then go out to the side to the ears and down the chin again. So you're making a kind of circle and you're going out like this And I'm not pressing hard on, but staying long enough. I'm just showing it quickly. But this is something you can do for a headache, migraine. You can do it for teeth coming in. You can do it for earache. You can do it down here for nose ache. When you've got a cold, it'll open up your sinuses. We did this earlier. So acupressure doesn't have to be dig it in. Okay, it can be gentle. So where we're going now is tapping. Tapping only came out, I think, somewhere around 2006 or something like that. But I was doing tapping when I was a child because Brit taught me how to do tapping. I didn't have a name for it. It was just do this. And I remember when I became a model and did that as well, had to put this makeup on and they were tapping it on my face. And I'm lying there going, oh, a revelation. I just had a thought. Oh, and I'm talking it out, and the girl's making me up. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, just keep tapping because tapping releases. Okay, so if you've got a frowning, angry face, and by the way, I do not use any creams but over-the-shelf creams, regular shops on my skin. And people say, well, how come you don't look your age? It's, well, tapping. It helps with getting those lines. It's not that I haven't got any, I've got lines. If I go like this, you can probably see I flew down here, but this is, not close photography. But the bottom line is tapping on the face is far better than all those creams, because every time you tap here, your brain is going, oh, sinuses, oh, memory, smell, oh,
What's really, really funny is that if we replicate that into a hospital setting where you're seeing a doctor for whatever ailment that you're going through, they do the same thing. They do this. So on the throat, they do this. They're feeling around. They walk their little hands or their little fingers. All over.
Well, they didn't see us tapping though, because they're feeling with their tips. They want to feel if you've got any bumps or lumps. This is not feeling. This is tapping. There's a big difference.
I know that. It's funny that we should, even though it's not the same thing that they're doing between feeling and actually tapping, I find it very, very interesting that both different techniques are used for two completely different things, but really we're focusing on the same thing.
Yeah, but then again, I'm sorry, I'm not saying you're not right. I'm also saying there are variations on the theme, because when we used to look at the tonsil glands and looking at all the bones here and the everything, anyway, everybody's got the idea. What you're actually doing in touching is like when mother holds the baby and does the patting on the back. It could bring up a memory like that. It could be that you're stretching because you want to dive into the ocean or swimming pool, whatever. There's a lot of times when we lift our neck to sing or to achieve a goal in some way. So I see more of touching in the neck when I'm working on people. I'm looking at glands. I like a doctor does. I'm feeling their tonsil glands. I'm looking at their, pharynx, larynx, and thyroid. I'm doing a medical thing. When I'm working on someone on the table, I can't just throw out the window my training. I have to still use that. And I'm very, very grateful that I have a very strong working knowledge of how the body works. And my point here of saying this is, and I'm glad you brought this up, everybody should know what goes on inside their body, and you'd be amazed how many people don't. I mean, you say a simple thing like, what does your liver look like?
We keep saying, know thyself, know thyself, know thyself, but people relate it to the brain and not to the rest of the body.
Yeah. So, when I say to people, how's your liver? What, they're having here for a treatment. What's the doctor say? And I get all their reports and stuff, which I can read as well. And maybe let's say they've come for kidneys or they've come for lungs or something, And the first thing I'm going to pick up when I scan their body is, where is the cause? And I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, the cause of illness is an imbalanced spleen chakra. And when you think about this diagonal one, I'm talking about the waistline, in there is your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas, your spleen, your tips of your lungs at the bottom, the small intestine and large colon are all, and then you've got glands in there, and you've got your adrenal glands and so on. There's a hell of a lot in there. And so coming back to tapping, if you can get yourself, after you get out of the shower or something, or even before, it depends, different people have different relationships to water, by the way. So there's so many different things can happen just by being in the shower. But if you can just tap around the rib cage as much as you can read onto the bones, because tapping on the bones creates an echo vibration. See, same up here. You can, if you do this, you can actually hear it. Okay, so the tapping is creating a sound in the bone, and the sound is a key note. It could be D, E, F, G, H, A, B, C. Who knows? Everybody is different. But when you're tapping, you're creating a sound, a noise, a vibration in the body, and that reverberates throughout the body like a drum. And so if you think it now of a drum, I don't know if you've seen this, Katie, where they put on video, you can find them on YouTube, where they got a drum and they put sand on the drum and then they play some music. Yeah. You saw it? And what happened? The sand went into symmetrical geometrical shapes, right? With these different notes. Your body is like that. In fact, I've got diagrams and lots of things that we teach in class, okay, about how the body is a series of geometrical shapes throughout your body. And so when you're tapping, you're resonating all these shapes biochemically, genetically in your body to shift energy in your physical body, your etheric, which is your lower self, emotions and mind, and your spirit body that is living in this body. When you die, your spirit body comes out, but you could actually condense all this energy that we're now talking as symmetrical geometrical shapes into, so you could look like a crystal, you could look like a star, you could be any shape you want to be. And in fact, Spirit told me many thousands of billions of years ago, whenever that was, that we were all coming down and experimenting in different shapes and got stuck in our shapes, and fighting and arguing with ourselves about what should be the reality of force of life. None of us can remember it, but it is interesting to say that I don't see any different today with us having arguments over how we live our lives, which is no different from being a spirit back in those days who could change your form and be magical, as we call it today, like the wizard and the fairy and so on. And here we are, we've still got that in us. We still try to be a fairy and a wizard or the ogre and the monster or whatever it is in us. So tapping can get rid of that negativity on your face, because remember I said your face is the one thing that shows who you are. So you're going to tap yourself tonight?
I'm always tapping myself.
She's so good.
And it's funny, tapping, I also just did a post just before this show, actually, about sound baths.
Okay, speak up.
Sound baths being that we can use high frequency instruments from crystals, singing bowls, gongs, to go into deep relaxation to improve physical and mental health.
Which is very good that you're saying that. Yeah, because music is this heart soul vibration that we attune to.
Well, the other thing is too is that sound baths also can come in the form of guided meditation. Sound therapy. Now, the quote that I posted to it is, there's no organ system in the body that's not affected by sound, music, and vibration. You can look at the dis-ease as a form of disharmony.
Yeah, exactly so. And if we go into the music itself, remember, for those who don't really know music, there's a true note, and then there's a flat and a sharp note on either side of it. And if you're in a flat or sharp note, you're not in tune. It's that simple. In my book, The Way to Oneness, there's a whole area in there of the book is everything you need to know kind of thing. If you're a serious student, you really want to learn about the oneness and how the creation was and how we got here and what we do and the planes of evolution, that kind of thing. It's in that book. But the thing, there's, I think it's chapter 4 about through chapter 8, there's a whole thing about the ascension and descension of the planes and the levels within it, and it talks about the musical notes of those planes and the evolution. And we here on Earth, we are the testing ground for all these different planes of evolution and ascension and descension. And so coming back to the singing that we were talking about, if you can listen, and a lot of people have taste in music, but if you can listen, for example, to Chopin, who all his music is done in flats, you know, his operas and things. But if you can listen to that, the flats will bring out your sadness and sorrow, and all his operas are sad and sorrow, you know, somebody's dying and so on and so forth. Then you go over to Mozart, who I could not listen to when I was young, because to me it was very aggressive, boom, 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 you know, and there's a lot of sharps in that music. So if you can come into the natural C key, it doesn't matter whether you're going below middle C or upper higher C, but if you can listen to, or even jingle on the piano or on a musical instrument and play those notes, it'll put you in key, and it'll put you in harmony with the other planes, so that you can meditate better and you can hear spirit guides and so on. Yeah. So somebody asked me once, how do I develop my psychic ability with, I don't know, it was about 20, something like that, years ago. How can I develop my psychic ability and be like you? And I just happened to have a whistle, like a policeman's whistle. What?
Read this book.
Yes, please, if you want to learn, develop your psychic ability, but we will do classes on this when we start. Easy peasy, and you'll do all that in a minute, tomorrow's education center and stuff. But going back to that whistle, I can see it even now in my head. It was just sitting there, and it was like a policeman's whistle, and it really wasn't. It was a copycat. And I said to this person, just whistle, because I was hearing, whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune. Okay, you got the song. That's where I got it from. That's somehow why I had a whistle. And I found that every time because I wasn't whistling very well, that helped. So music isn't just music. It could be a musical instrument just going, oh my God, this is driving me crazy when the kids are learning. But it's bringing out your negativity. Don't overreact, tell the kids shut up. Go outside and hug a tree, which is another therapy you can do, because trees heal you. Okay, got something to say about your hugging trees?
Well, when I have the accessibility to being a green thumb, I actually do like to be in the garden.
Flowers, nature and everything, but there's something about trees, you see, because their roots go right down into the soil. And, you know, as they say, what you see the bloom above is also down below. And everything that we talk about, reincarnation and, you know, whatever, is in the soil. You know, a tree dies and its leaves go to the earth and its pods or whatever, and out comes many others. And we are the same as, you know, the profuseness of reproduction has always been with us. Our problem is not knowing how to nurture it. So now I'm coming back to, how do you nurture yourself? Well, you might be saying, well, I've got to get ice cream or my favorite cake or something. Is that really nurturing you? Because you might well be putting too much sugar in your body and you've got trouble with your insulin. So how do you nurture yourself? You go and have a massage. When a person massages you, you're totally relaxed on that. That's the time the aura can be shifted by the healer, who may not even know they're a healer because they just say, I'm a massage therapist. But when they start working, something happens and they get into it and they become a part of it with you. And you get off that table and you feel, wow, I'm wonderful. Problem is, you go back to your issues. So here's what I say. When you get out of the meditation, out of the massage, ask the person to leave you for 5 or 10 minutes with some music while you lay there and you tell yourself, I am transformed into a new dynamic. History no longer matters. I am here in the now and I'm ready for the future. You've got to tell yourself out loud. So you don't have to shout it and have everybody come running in, but speak it so you can hear it. And tell yourself every day, I'm on my pathway forward, and stop thinking about where you've been. And heaven knows, back in those days when my children were young, I was always back where I'd been, trying to make sense of it. And it wasn't until I clinically died and came back, as it were, that I started to see I had to find time for me. Because life was all about everybody else. And you went through that, didn't you?
I'm still going through it.
Well, we all go through it all the time. It's not like life is free of negativity, but you get to a point where you start to realize you cannot feed into other people's negativity. And here I'm going to go a little bit further afield from us individually and talk about, I don't want to be political, but I will talk about how all over the world right now, there are uprisings of people saying our leaders aren't leading, they're controlling us and manipulating us. And this is out of the Piscean age. What can you do if you go on a march and you want to be peaceful, and then all the soldiers come out and start firing rubber bullets at you? You can't do anything. So I was saying to Spirit, you know, people are writing up blah, blah, blah. And why are they doing this? And why can't we find another way? And in my meditation, they undid a scroll, and the scroll had names on it, millions and millions of names. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but I've seen that lots of times and so on and so forth in my rationale of it. And they just said, when the world makes lists and lists are shared throughout the world, then peace will come. And right now, what we've got is people on, you know, I listen to Al Jazeera, get these little vignettes that you can listen to what's going on in each country. And time again, I hear a specialized complaint, like we're all about Black, Chinese, French, Italian, or whatever. When are we going to realize we're all the same? We all have bodies that work the same. We all are human. it doesn't matter what color. I mean, look at it this way. There are hundreds and thousands of dogs all over this world, interbred. They don't give a damn whether they're half terrier or half fox or whatever it is, you know. They live, and they live to survive. We live to survive, but we don't know how to take one another as friend, family, interacting, whatever it is, teachers, students. We have roles to play. But until we realize that we need to get rid of all this history, which is why I'm showing these little exercises, until we put that aside, we can't listen, because we're too busy listening to this negative noise going on in our brain.
As soon as you said that just then, I just went straight back to a Netflix series that's only just started very, very recently. That kind of reflects that of what we've just gone through and that of what we're going into. And it's about, it's like a post-apocalyptic about a virus that spread. But as a result, every baby born thereafter in this post-apocalyptic environment become hybrid, will
Is that the one with babies looking like animals too?
like animals.
Yeah, I started watching that. It's good.
Full first season, so I'm sitting there going, whoa, this is interesting. But for those guys who don't know what we're talking about right now, it is a brand new series up on Netflix. It's called Sweet Tooth. I started watching it. I'm like, oh, this isn't, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go, see how it goes. And then I'm like, holy crap, this is so relatable right now to what's going on. Not about the half human, half animal hybrids, but what is going on in society right now, and trying to leave things at the door, and how fear can instill in those to develop something new.
Well, there's a lot on Netflix. I'm enjoying it too, and I'm ashamed to say, not really, I'm not ashamed, but I spend more time watching another episode instead of going to bed or doing some work. But the one I've been watching is The Gift. It's really, the messages are so deep. It's made in one of the Middle Eastern countries, or no, I don't know where. I can't understand the language. It could be Northern Europe, because it's symbols. Their writing is in symbols, like Russian or something. They're not like our, German, but it's not German, because I know German when I hear it. But anyway, it's dubbed, and it's dubbed very well in English. And I don't want to give anything away, but it really is the evolvement of mankind in a story way. People are coming back and forth in time, and I won't say any more than that. So if people want to listen to shows like that bring a point over of evolution, that's a good one, The Gift. Okay. So I've been amazed just how many TV shows are coming out that people are writing, and I sit there and I think, oh, I wish I could write like that, write those kind of stories,
The shows that is coming out on Netflix right now are very
metaphysical.
yeah, I'm just like that, but they have to be sci-fi so that they can because it has to hit a certain target. A lot of them are just like totally metaphysical.
Exactly. You see, which shows you we are in the Aquarian age finally. I've been talking about this for so long. When I first told people that the Great Piscean Age was overlapping the Great Aquarian Age, people looked at me like I was insane, because they're astrologers, and I was lecturing to astrologers, who only know about the inner circle of the home, of the houses and the planets, and of course I learned that years ago. But spirit guides came in when I got that base underneath me and gave me the Great Aquarian Age versus the Great Piscean Age. And then I went back in time to the Great Taurus Age and the Great Aryan Age. And it was very interesting to see how the history that we know about was influenced by the Great Age, because the Great Aquarian Age brought in the flood. So we can't really see that. But they gave me a general idea of it. And then on top of that, now I'm throwing this out to everybody who's watching, we are encoded with those times, even though we don't know it. We've been a space age, we've been all this stuff that we're talking about. And so all these stories and things that are coming out of people's minds are a part of the tapping into the oneness and bringing forgotten knowledge forward into our mind to help us understand what we've forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into wanting to get rid of your negativity, and these different therapies that we've been showing you, do them to yourself, because it will make a great big difference. How are we doing for time? I have no idea. I've not been looking.
We're over time, my dear.
Oh, are we? Well, I would say, in ending all this, I want to say to people, I had many, many more different ways of teaching. When I've got a whole class in front of me, I'm dynamically moving around and doing things because I'm high physical. But there are so many different ways to be trained. And what we're trying to do, Katie's working very hard. What we're trying to do is to get these websites up so we can start teaching all the theory online relative to the different topics that we're going to teach. And then when we have enough people who've done the theories, we want to have open workshops somewhere in different states in the country, so that people who have studied theory and maybe done their practice at home with people can come together, where I will really, really make sure they know and trained and whatever, level 1, and then they'll go away, get a diploma, and then they'll come back and do level 2, similar way, and then come together for that. I don't, make it sound easy, because if you seriously want to study, there'll be tests, there'll be exams, just like as if you're going to a real full built, brick built university. My plan is hopefully that we'll get enough really good teachers to be online teaching their things, so that eventually you can stay at home like you can with any other university and study to become a therapist or a doctor of alternative medicine. And whatever it is, like Katie, she's recently got hers, and we're very proud of that. And we are tied in with California University in this country for foreign students. So anyone studying with us and really getting tip-top education will be able to get their PhD eventually. But you've got to put the work in, just like all of us.
And like I said, I just like Margaret, we are both very, very hardcore in the way that we, and I'm going to say hardcore because alternative word to put it in place, but we are very, very hardcore in the way that we teach. I mean, just for mindfulness, the course that I have for mindfulness, that is not, Margaret, you've seen that course. That's not an easy, it's not an easy course. It's not a intensive, okay, I'm going to get my certificate in 8 weeks. It's not going to happen. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the workbook. You've got to do the assignments. You've got to read the books that I give you. You've got to see the videos that we see. You've at least got to participate in something to show us that you can do it. We're never going to graduate you if you can't prove that you can't do it.
Yeah, and every so often we'll have tests. Well, like actually, I till I came to this country, I've got to admit, in England, the education, I don't know what it's like for you, but you never had multiple choices. It was write at least a paragraph or a page on each question, whatever it was they asked in the exams. Part of my problem back in those days, I was not knowing I was dyslexic, so I'm spelling the words back to front, inside out, whatever, and I was told you'll never write books, and here I am today with 17 books. Thank God I've got spell check. But I notice when I'm typing too, I will press the wrong key. Like if I want to type little, I might end up with IELTET or something, because my hands just run away with me when I'm typing so fast and I'm not thinking about spelling. Well, there are different issues that I've mentioned mine. So don't worry if you have dyslexia or something, or you're handicapped. We find a way to help you do the study. We never close the door on anyone unless you have a long history in prison. That has to be decided as well as to what was up, you know. The reason being, we got to have people who are really honest, straight people who know what they're doing and want a career for those kind of courses. Yeah.
And that goes the same with teachers too. We don't want somebody that is just a talker, someone that can talk about extensively on a subject, or just teach a subject because they've spoken about it before, whether it be on social media, or whether it be on radio, or whether it be on a social media group or something like that. We're not looking for that. You need to have at least an academic background on this and be willing to learn even more as well alongside of teaching. So for those who are out there who are looking for a career in this, or who is a teacher who already has a career but looking for expansion on what they already do, then yeah, this is a great opportunity. But yeah, I just wanted to make it sure that for somebody that can just talk about random topics about metaphysics and everything else in between.
And we're also looking for people with different languages, but of course they've got to be able to speak English, so that we know what they're teaching. But supposing you're in Mexico and you know, and you're Hispanic, and you know how to do, I've got to pick something. He's a hypnotist. Okay, just because we talked about that. Then we got to know when we talk to you in English that you absolutely do know everything about hypnosis. So interviews will be a part of that as well. We want to pick your brains, as it were, to know that you know a lot, because we want you to be able to do courses with many levels in it so that they graduate with a university degree. But we can't do that if we don't know what you're speaking. So we need interpreters, we need translators eventually. We're not paying wages. We're doing it under Universal Christchurch for now, because that's the established way that we can get you qualified through the California University. But and until we got you ready, you can't apply for it. We've got to see your history, we've got to see what you studied. I mean, Katie went through all of this. It wasn't easy, was it?
It got me, I think it was we started this whole process back, what is it?
Last year sometime.
November or something, November-ish. No, hang on, no, it wasn't. It was October. My process started in October last year, and then it was only on June 8th that I finally got awarded my PhD. And so, I stand proud with everything that I do. And then, of course, going back to what I was saying before about teachers, you actually got to prove that you can write a full curriculum. Just because Margaret is my teacher, I have to prove to her that I can write an entire course, and it doesn't matter what I'm going to say in the subjects and whatnot, but at least an outline of entirely what I'm going to do, and at least show that I can. Obviously, I had one up because I was already teaching through my radio show, so that was a given. And I'm also open to mentoring. So that means that Margaret also comes and kicks me up the butt if I'm not being human enough.
No, it's not true. She's very, very good. And I had to ask her many questions and test her from all that she'd done before so that I could even give her my diplomas. So that was something we had to kick out and check and make sure she knew everything. So we have to do that. If you come to us and you've studied elsewhere, we have to have discussions about exactly what you study and what you know.
Yeah, like I said, for people who are listening right now, Margaret's a good teacher, very, very good teacher. And I got to give her the credit because obviously, one, she mentors me. Two, she actually has taught me. And three, I have been grilled by Margaret, who had on anything and everything. And now it's gotten to a point where she realizes, my capacity for learning and teaching. That now she's like, I don't need to know that. Now I need to write that down because you're now teaching me.
And she teaches me. It's a two-way street because I'm useless on the computer. I'm always calling her up saying, what do I do? Because my generation didn't have any of that. And I admit I have blocks where I go, oh no, I got to go in and do all this. And I have to will myself. And of course, once I get into it, I start to realize, okay, it's not so hard as I thought it was. Whereas she's a whiz kid. Different generation, though. We have to point that out. My generation wasn't brought up technical. You were. So there's a difference. And the kids coming down, like your kiddywinks now, they're going to have a whole different game when they're adults.
Yeah, but I'm prepared for that too. So
yeah, well, you are because you're younger. I'm still going, okay. See, so that's where Katie has an advantage over me because she's had a more later education, which is more up to date with the kids. Whereas I have more an advantage over her over the years of working with emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually ill people, hands-on.
I will say though, there's a difference there. I did everything that I did because I was proactive to get myself an education and continue on that education. A very, very large majority of people who do go through education don't continue. They get what they need to get and then they stop and then they start their career. And that is that. There is no continual progress in education whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And it is important. For myself, there wasn't any teacher to go to. So my teachers have always been spirit guides and master teachers and so on. I have a whole load of them. I have an army behind me. But the bottom line is they taught me things that nobody else was getting. So I had to write all these books. And hands-on activities. So like I would be working on a body and they're telling me, touch this point, watch this happens there, which is how I was able to get the crystal acupuncture and pterogram therapy. So I'm a medium, at core of my energy. And out of that came the teacher. So I went through the therapist to the teacher to my, and I'm still studying. I listen to other professors and they're finding out half my age because I didn't have that education. It wasn't in existence to have that education. So I'm gleeful to listen to people who have come up after me and absorb that information into me, but I'm still getting extra information from the spirit guides. So I've got the best of both worlds. I've got Katie I can run to and say, what do I do? I've got my courses I can listen to, and I've got spirit. So I'm a happy camper. Yeah, I love learning, I have to admit it. And my life has been a challenge with negativity, as you indeed have had that too. We old souls have to go through a lot of negativity. So anyone listening, if you need the counseling, we're both here for you. Want to say something about that?
Yes, we are both open for therapy and counseling services. You can email us at Samaras.
easypeasysolutions.org, sumariseducationcenter.com, universalchristchurch.com, somafusionmedia.com. Now carry on. I got that many done.
I was trying to get the email. samarisucc@gmail.com is the email that you need to contact us on. For all inquiries, you can even shoot us an email, tell us about the show and what you want to hear and what you want to learn about on the show every Saturday night. Outside of that, the sign-ups are up on easypeasysolutions.org. You should be able to go over to the website. You should be able to sign up and put your email address in that. If for whatever reason it doesn't work, you can always email us at samarasucc@gmail.com. That's another alternative for you, so that you're not lost in the mix. Because I check the email quite regularly anyway, so I know if you are making an inquiry. But that is our central email. Please email it to us. If you email us on our other emails, it might take a little bit to get back to you, because we do get inundated with emails and we're not always able to check.
I did put up a thing just before we came on the show that if they want on my Facebook, they want a reading, they can connect with Professor Margaret RVC at Gmail. Just put I need a reading or counseling. And I didn't do it for you because I didn't know if you wanted to do that. So this would be a time to say if they want an absolute, they want to go on the sites, but they want your counsel, you better give them your email that you want them to write. And I said in mine, they must write, I want a reading, please, because we get so much stuff and we wouldn't notice it. Otherwise, Michael would delete it all, So you say what you want to say.
Yes, I'm currently doing, I do more counseling and therapy than I do readings, but I can do readings. I'm very much open to it. But if for readings in particular, I am a tarot reader, so that's where my readings do come from. I'm very, very intuitive, so I may go down that route as well. But if I notice something that is really that doesn't really necessarily need to be answered by intuitively or by reading, I will go practice psychology, which is what I'm doing.
Well, you can do that online as well, same as I would do hypnosis, healing, counseling. Well, it's all included. I just said reading, so she can do a lot of things.
One thing, but yeah, I can do a lot of things, and I can be reached out. You can reach me at the Soma Fusion Academy at gmail.com. I have all of my details up there. You can, if you reach out to me, then just let me know what type of reading or what type of therapy you're looking for, and then I will approach it at that. I will let you know that I do specialize in regression therapy. A lot of people are reaching out to me about regression. I'm not talking about past lives. I'm talking about regression therapy in order to basically rewire your brain from minor anxieties and fears that we have within ourselves.
Yeah, which is really a hypnosis session, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So if you want to be with either of us, you can either put a note in Easy Peasy Solutions there. If you don't remember our emails anyway, we'll find you. Just put your details in, right?
Yes, exactly. And I do want to make a quick mention too, because it has been launched now. I do have a GoFundMe fundraiser right now that's going on for because it's now been announced that I have the Katie Kamara Healing Center. We're raising funds for a building to be rented out for the next 12 months, which it will cost about up to $3,000, and that includes connecting the power to the building itself, and for minor basics. But the Katie Kamara Healing Center will be a medical service, and it will also include a small birthing center. It is holistic healthcare and education to service approximately 1,000 rural women in Rakai, Uganda. It is a humanitarian effort. So basically, it is being built to enable, sustain, and empower a thriving rural community of women and children who lack the basic resources, skills, and education that to have the best quality of life that a human can have now and for future generations to come. Now, this community here is very much involved, and they do want to teach the children, and they are very, very focused on the children. So stabilizing, they are going through a lot of issues right now. The women can't see each other because of COVID. And Rakai, if most people don't know anything history about Rakai, Rakai, Uganda was the epicenter for the AIDS HIV virus epidemic. decades ago.
Mm.
Yeah, we are stabilizing, but if you want to go over to that, the link is up on Facebook. But for those who don't know, it is gofundme.com/Katie Kamara Healing Center Building Fund. So,
and that is really amazing and such an honor for you to be able to have something named after you. And we will in our own way, you particularly, because you know more about sharing everything. She's even sharing my stuff for me, because everything's changed so much with COVID coming up, and Google buying out everybody else, that everything is controlled. We're not able to post the way we used to, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, but you kept up with it. So it's wonderful that that this has happened. I've had over the years a lot of people asking me if I would go over there, wherever it is, to teach, and that's what I've done. But now it's time with the videos. This is amazing. This has opened up the world, and I just hope that the world will start to come together and not just have like you followed by one name, and grateful for you. You're a star, is born in that area, but we need it all over the world. So anyone else who's in a foreign country who needs study and learn, if you're able to speak English and your language, you could become a door opener for your country, working with us, and we would do our best in any way to support you, whether it's Katie on the radio, because she's good at that, she knows what she's doing, me doing videos on my show. By the way, I didn't even talk about that. Learn as much as you can. I've been doing my radio show, Journey into an Unknown World, since 2010, and now it's up. You've put it up on soundcloud.com/ what is it, Dr. Margaret Speaks? Okay, I've got it right. Thank you. And so anything that you learn there, or you learn from her radio shows, we're open to come back on it and ask us to do a show on it, or talk about it, or have an open room where people can come in and just pick our brains. We're open to what you need. And so we need to hear you ask us.
yes.
We really do. Can you do something on such and such? And we will.
That I will say to you, to going back to what I was about the Katie Kamara Healing Center, that was an offer, honorific, because the women actually named it itself. I was grateful for everything that they have, God willing, have given me an opportunity to become a part of. But what I will say, that after COVID has stabilized, I will be mobilizing a team to go to Rakai, Uganda, to actually work in the community center, in the center itself. And so for those healers who are really wanting to have a humanitarian experience, this is a perfect opportunity to become a part of it, whether it be best to contribute or to become a volunteer.
Yeah, and I will say, because I've been on the the other way around, that when we go to another country, and I've seen about 20 of them with teaching, when we go to another country, we go, as I did in the beginning, with my British consciousness, okay? And so I did Europe, and then when I did America, I did, my British was like, everybody loved it because I was British, but when I opened my mouth to speak, the words were different, and even though we're speaking English, so over the years, I've had to learn to phrase American, but I've worked on keeping my language, as you can hear. But when I go back to England, they're like, you sound American, because my phrasing. Okay, so in the same way, Japan, Mexico, the countries that would touch, Canada, I've been everywhere. Hands-on, you can't beat hands-on. because they're right in front of you. You can answer all their questions, you can touch them, you can talk about it, you can have them doing the exercises, you can have them trained, and Japan proved that to me. 26 years I was there on and off, and by the end of 2014, I had done 20 years of not intro, but advanced training, going back 3 times a year. That is what dedication is. So I'm not saying this to blow my trumpet. I'm saying this, that when Katie says to go there, that would be wonderful. I would be the first to volunteer, but it's what we need. We need people who are willing to stand before an audience. So it's one thing to teach online and be seconded by all your favorite books and things, and just here we are talking, okay? But to be there, touch them, hear them, feel them, see them, know their suffering. You can't beat that.
Yeah, and just in relation to that, my first international trip was to a very, very poor, destitute country. In fact, a country that was actually deemed dangerous, well, still is deemed dangerous. And
where was that?
Sierra Leone.
Huh?
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone. Oh, okay. So, those, yeah, it is like wherever you go in any country, because I've had a lot of experience of traveling, there's always danger.
Well, with this that we're talking about war,
guns, wars, and things. Yeah.
But what I will say is that the reason why it was such a big eye-opener, and I would never change it for the world, and the fact that I went to a third world country as my first ever international trip, is because when I got there, when we were there for almost just over 3 weeks, and we had no power, we had no running water, we had because there was no power, there was no cold drinks, there was nothing.
Everything's taken away, right? I've been in that scenarios too.
And so by going over there, I'm like, you know what? Now I understand life. And people who do go over there, they just can't handle it because they're so used to technology. They're so used to having running water. They're so used to the privileges that we know in Western world. It doesn't happen over there. And so by having it taken all away, I learned a valuable lesson about what life really means when we have nothing.
Exactly. And I got the same lessons too from World War II and other countries that I visited. And I tell you, one time I came back from India, I felt I had 2 TVs in my house. I didn't have 2 pounds to rub together, we'll put it that way now. But I felt I was rich after I'd been in India with the poverty that I saw and the people I was teaching and the consciousness that they had. I won't go into all that now, but the bottom line, I felt almost guilty that I had a roof over my head, that I could just barely pay my gas bill. And there was a family living around the corner from us who had lost electricity, they lost gas, they had worse off than me. And I opened my house up to them because I had the gas and electricity. And when they came, I noticed the children didn't understand. They hadn't told the children, we have no money, we have no gas, you have to survive. So the kids were expecting me to give them all the treats. And it was very tempting because I could give them a candy in the cupboard. My kids were given a candy now and again or whatever. These kids didn't have anything. And I wanted to. And I was thinking about it and Spirit said, no, this is their lesson. They've got a bed, you've given them a bed, they've got warmth, and they've got food. Don't give them anything else. So I didn't. Well, I was talking to the mother later, and she said, I'm so grateful for having me here with my kids, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, if I was in the same boat, so I'm hoping someone would do it with me. And she looked at me and she said, I wouldn't have a stranger in my house. And I said, well, you're a stranger in my house. And she said, yeah, but now you're my friend. And that hit me because if I hadn't opened that door, I would never have known her, because it was the children who knew one another that brought them together, that brought me to offer to help. But it was India that put me in the mind of what it was like to not have. And so I'm just saying what you're saying, that we should make these children who have plenty understand what it's like to not have. And I brought up my children with pulling my pockets out when they asked for something. If you can find the money, you can get it. And I'd even let them go hunting in the house, like Hunt the Thimble is a game you play. If you don't find any money, well, I'm sorry, you can't buy the candy then, because I don't have any either. Yeah. So my kids grew up knowing, because of what I learned, knowing that they can't just have it. And what I'm ashamed of in a way in America is the kids get what they want. The adults get what they want. Buy it online, buy it. And they don't think, what country did this come from? Someone was in the sweat lodge making this for me. And they just think, I want it, I've got it, I use it, I trust it. There's no appreciation for the countries that are starving to death and only making money by the Western world that wants it all. And so I want to leave everybody today, this is my final message, is appreciate your family, however mean and miserable they are, because they gave you life. Appreciate everything you touch, feel, look at, hear, speak about, say, that you have had life so far, and appreciate what's coming towards you for your future, and be a part of growing this world to be an appreciative world. Must be a little late. Okay.
No, that, I do, and yeah, and we should have gratitude. We should have kindness. We should, if we haven't already learned it, go learn it.
You have to, and you learn it the hard way too, when it's taken from you.
But with that said, we do have to finish up.
Yeah, we do.
We have gone way over time, but that's
Have
okay.
we?
Like 9:45 already.
Is it really? Oh my goodness, you got to go to bed. I'm still up. That means it's 10 to 7 for me, or 8 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be like, yes, Mum, I'm going to bed at 10 in the evening.
Well, I had to give a dig, didn't I? And we have to be light. We can't always be angry and frustrated. So I hope people can see we have fun sharing what we know. Yeah.
We do. And with that said, we will be back next week on Soma Fusion Media at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 4 p.m. Arizona time, and or Pacific, wherever you are in neck of the woods. So please reach out to us. Our email address again is samarasucc@gmail.com. Our websites, however, a long list. You want to mention them, Margaret?
EasyBeasySolutions.org. She's been training me. SamariseducationCenter.com, UniversalChristchurch.com. This is the foundation stone of how we're able to do university online, working with California University out of UCLA. And now they are tied in to every university in America. So wherever you are, whatever courses, classes you've done, we need to know about them, because we can help you move forward in your education. And that's the sites that I dried up with. Sorry, somafusionmedia.com. What else? You do the rest.
SoundCloud.com/Dr. Margaret Speaks, SamarisCenter.com, EasyBeasySolutions.org, SamarisEducationCenter.com, TheUniversalChristchurch.com, AskDrMargaret.com. We are easily findable on social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got multiple pages all over Facebook, as well as, what was the last one I was thinking of? Yours,
your radio show, my radio show. It's too much. Just search us.
Google Margaret, you'll be fine. You can find us. But with that said, we will see you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4 p.m. Mountain Time or Pacific.
Pacific. I'm still on the same time as them until the summer, whatever, winter solstice.
Until then, we look forward to seeing you next week with a new topic. Look out on the Soma Fusion Facebook media page. Hang on, that is the Soma Fusion Media Facebook page. And you will see all of our information as well as the updates from other shows. The other shows will be aired over there as well. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week.
One last message. If you listen to this on audio next week, sometime, whenever, we'd still like to hear from you. Let us know you listen to a recording rather than live. How about that?
Really?
Mm.
We'll see you.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening today, if you did. Bye.